Hey everybody, how's it going? My name's Mark. Once again, today we have Alex Brown joining us from Columbus, Ohio. Alex, why don't you give us a quick hello here?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought me back after the disasters of the episodes we've had before.
I don't know if I would call them disasters, but they were fun. They were fun. All right, so for today's topic, the meat and potatoes, what we're going to be talking about today is our first cameras. And I'm going to start here since I threw Alex under the bus for the previous one. The first camera that I ever had, I don't know the exact model name, unfortunately, but it was my mom and dad's old Sony Cybershot or PowerShot or something like that. It maxed out at under 720p, but it was digital, so that was pretty cool back then, was just being able to transfer those files straight off of there. And I talked a little bit about the types of projects that I would shoot with this camera, and you can find our video talking about that here. But this gave me kind of an introduction into shooting and learning the very, very basics of how to make a bad video. The learning how to make a good video was something that came later after a little bit of experience. But I was really appreciative of just having something to shoot with and make these mistakes and learn a lot. So that's where I'm coming from. Alex, what's your background here?
Yeah, so my first camera, I got it in fifth grade. It was a Christmas gift because I picked it out in the JCPenney catalog. That makes me sound like I'm like 80 years old. But it was a digital flip camera. I don't know the exact model number either. That probably doesn't have one. But it was like a little flip out LCD thing. I had a 2 gig SD card for it. That funny enough, I thought would get me into college on the 6Ds that we had, or 60Ds we had, and it recorded for like 10 seconds. But that's a story for a different day. But yeah, it was this little flip camera, and if you recorded for over a minute, actually, I don't know what happened internally, but it would start to change like colors on the video, and it would like be like green and blue and like just have these like casts on the recording. So you had to work with those limitations a little bit.
That's got to be like an overheating thing or something where it's just showing those weird, bizarre things. But like you said, it's putting in those false limitations, and maybe it's trying to encourage you to shoot better. You got the learner edition of the camera.
Yeah.
All right, so we weren't shooting with these flip cameras, these crappy little digital cameras for all our lives after that, of course. And that gives us a natural transition into what came next. So what were you shooting on when you weren't shooting with just what was on hand at the time?
Yeah. So in college, one of our professors actually let me onto this little camera called the Panasonic GH2. And it's just this little tiny camera that uses these really small micro four thirds lenses. And I like begged my parents to get it for me for Christmas because I didn't have a job at the time, so I didn't have any money to buy a camera. And I like watched eBay avidly to get it, and they like held it over till Christmas, even though we bought it in like October. And that was the first camera I like really did research on and like knew what I was getting beforehand.
So what was it about the Panasonic GH2 that drew you in? What caught your eye there?
The production professor we had was the one that like really caught my eye because he had us editing a few projects that he shot on it. So I like saw the quality of the camera before I bought it, and then once I was like doing my research on it and stuff like that, it was cheap because it was older at the time. It was only like $300 on eBay. So like it was a cheap buy, but it still had interchangeable lenses. It still shot it shot HD, which was good at the time. And that's, I mean, progressively gotten away from the the good at the time. But yeah, it was the form factor, the quality packed into such a small product.
And you kept on using that for a long while, right?
yeah, I mean, I used that until last year. That was I mean, when I got rid of it, it was an 8-year-old camera and I was still using it. I'd made some modifications since then. I was using EF lenses rather than micro four thirds lenses. I never hacked it. I tried. But I mean, I had made some modifications since then to upgrade it. But yeah.
I was wondering if you ever did that hack on it. The driftwood, was it? The one that bumped up the bitrate?
Yeah, I tried. And it never recorded for very long. So it was like I couldn't use it for anything besides like things that I was going to be able to drop footage fast because it was such a high bit rate.
And I think after talking about such a fantastic little camera, I think it's good to take a step back and let me talk about my first camera that I bought with my own money. Now, this is going to sound a little confusing since I mentioned the first camera I shot on was digital. It was a digital Sony camera. The first camera that I purchased was the Canon GL1 that shot to mini DV tapes. So even after digital was out and it was a booming market, even though these cheaper DSLR options were out there, I was still shooting on mini DV tapes because for some reason I thought that like this was a professional camera. It didn't even have XLR ports on it, but I thought there's got to be a reason that this thing costs so much. And I still kind of scratch my head and wonder why it cost as much as it was when I bought it. It was like $400 something when I bought it used. But that brings me to where I am now. And I think I might be one of the only people my age who knows how to transfer FireWire mini DV footage off of a camcorder using a desktop capture card with a FireWire interface. Using Windows Movie Maker of all things is what I had to do to import my footage. So this was a real-time process where I had to like digitize that tape. And I was shooting on this thing all the time and it was a miserable experience because digital is just so much easier to work with. So I don't know what I was thinking. I eventually stepped up after using that for a year and a half. I stepped up to the Blackmagic Cinema Camera Micro Four Thirds shortly after it had the price drop from $2,995 down to $1,995. And then I got an open box unit for $1,700. And that camera lasted me for 7 years. Yeah, I had a little bit of frustrations with it over the years, but it was a reasonably good camera for, well, and especially for the time. And I got my Z-Cam now that I'm shooting on. Alex, how about yourself? What are you shooting on these days?
C100 Mark II. So still rocking the older cameras, but the C100 Mark II, it's a solid camera. It has that 4K sensor from the C300 that's downsampled. So it's 1080, but it's really 4K.
And I think it looks like a fantastic image from where I'm sitting. So I think that's going to be wrapping it up here. Alex, any closing thoughts before we end this one here?
Yeah, cameras are a funny thing, but I mean, don't get intimidated by them. Just use what you have. Use your phone. I mean, their phones are great nowadays to start out on. I wish I had an iPhone to start out on. But yeah, just use what you have and just go with it. You can worry about upgrading and the technical stuff after you've learned the meat.
I think that's a wonderful closing thought here. And mine, I'm going to keep it short. I'm going to keep it simple and not quite as eloquent. Don't buy many DV tapes, guys. Don't buy many DV camcorders when digital's already out there. It's not worth the hassle. Save yourself the extra time and effort and just go digital. And that's going to wrap it up for me, guys. Thank you so much for joining in. We'll see you again every Monday and Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a good one, and bye.